Greetings and welcome to Leading Our Adventure, your Venturing BSA podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Todd, and I have the privilege to serve as your 2023-2024 VP of Program for the National Officers Association. I'm thrilled to be accompanied by another special guest who's going to share with us the thrills and joys of being a summer camp staff member. One privilege that a lot of us get to enjoy, but maybe you have been on camp staff before, or maybe this is your first experience. You're in for a treat. This is episode 9, and fitting, Cody is the Territory 9 VOA President. It kind of works out, covering territories of Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. Cody brings with him a wealth of experience and a passion for the scouting world in general. If you ever get an opportunity to talk with him, it is phenomenal. And I'm so excited to talk with him today. Welcome, Cody. We're so thrilled to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself a little more?
Absolutely. My name is Cody Weigle, and I'm thrilled to be included on this podcast. I'm the acting T9 VOA President, serving all of Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan, as Hannah mentioned. And when I think back to why I got into venturing and other scouting programs, it all traces back to my time staffing at Camp Friedlander, my home council summer camp. And yeah, Ooh, I owe it all to summer camp.
So much fun. Very cool. Did you go to that camp as a participant?
Yeah, since 2017, I've been a participant, and then starting 2021 was my first year on staff.
Sweet. It's always fun. When I went to summer camp, I went to like different camps and then went and staffed at my council camp, and that was a little different. So I'm glad you kind of knew the lay of the land when you kind of started. How did you get started? Speaking of it didn't just happen overnight, or maybe it did.
Yeah, so in a sense, it kind of did happen overnight. I actually didn't plan to be on summer camp staff. It all started the week my troop was at summer camp on like day 5 or 6. I decided I wasn't ready to go home, so I went around asking some staff members how they got started. And then not even 12 hours later, I was hired. Camp happened to be majorly understaffed, and at the time they were desperate for anybody. So much so that 5 weeks into camp, they hired me on for the 2 remaining weeks of camp. So the next morning when camp let out, I went straight home to the scout shop, got my full regalia of venturing, and then went back to camp in 16 hours. It was a very impulsive decision, but it was definitely a good one. Have you ever staffed a summer camp, Hannah?
I have, and the things that can happen at scout camp are very different and unexpected. I mean, 16 hours is not a lot of time to go, hi, Mom and Dad, I'm going back to camp. Here we go, to the scout shop, and then all the way back to camp. I'm not sure how far away your council camp is from your residence, but that's definitely commitment. And the whole venturing uniform too. Is that how you got into venturing?
Yeah, so I got started because the uniform at my summer camp is venturing uniforms.
Oh.
Yeah, and back before like 2021, there wasn't a huge venturing presence. So I kind of took the uniform and ran with it.
I see. That's interesting. So the staff wear the venturing uniform or part of a venturing crew. I know there's a few summer camps around the nation that do that, but mine definitely don't. And I have, getting back to your question, I have staffed a summer camp. This year will be my 4th or 5th year at Camp Ground in Nebo, and it's definitely has been a really great experience. I've worked at aquatics. Before that, I worked at Weeble's Adventure Camp, and before that, I worked at day camp. Definitely camp is somewhere that calls me home, and there's a lot of spontaneous adventures that can happen at summer camp. Kind of summer camp or day camp for Cub Scouts was kind of what got me into scouting originally. I had so much fun as a den chief that I wanted to come back, and that's how I got into venturing too. It can be incredibly fulfilling, valuable experiences, and I've had to adapt what I thought was quickly. But hearing your story, it seems like you've also had to adapt really quickly. I'm very impressed with the impulsive nature of your decision, and it's a testament to the different paths that it can take you. This next summer, I'm really excited to be back at camp again, but after the whirlwind of the day, what area did you end up? 16 hours later, what area, what did you do? What did they have you do? I'm so curious.
Yeah, so I was originally going to be hired on as a CIT, or a counselor in training. Yeah, but as I mentioned, they were really understaffed. So I showed up the next morning. I was handed a troop guide map for a campsite, and yeah, straight to full staff. So after troop guiding that morning, I went straight to Cultural Village, where I taught Indian lore, communications, citizenship, merit badges, and I just dove in head first.
I know what a troop guide does at my camp. What does a troop guide do at your camp? You just were handed a map and then there you go, on your way. But what did you do?
The main role of troop guides at Camp Friedlander, it's mostly a check-in process, and then we're kind of like a personal commissioner for a troop. So when troops arrive, they're usually gathered in groups in the parking lot. And a big thing we like to do is we want to be the first ones to introduce ourselves. So we go out and find these troops after being given a number, and then we walk them through the whole check-in process. I don't know how it is at your camp, but ours is like probably a 4-hour start to finish check-in process with all the paperwork and med checks and swim checks, and all of the tedious tasks that happen the first day.
It's always an adventure. They're tedious, but at the same time, everybody's so excited. The energy's high. They go and do swim checks. That's when they come see me, is the swim check time. And everybody's either really excited or kind of nervous to get in the water, but it always ends up being great. 4 hours is definitely a long time to be with the same group of people. Did you do that with many troops, or did you just have your own troop? Or not your own troop, but like you got a number and you were troop guide for one troop or multiple?
It's usually one troop a week, but sometimes if there's joint troops, like a boy and girl troop, like together, sometimes you do multiple, but it's usually by campsite. So you're given like the unit number and the campsite, and then you kind of figure out the rest from there.
Very cool. I see. Sometimes, or some people that have experienced venturing haven't experienced the summer camp experience yet, so kind of breaking it down is helpful, and different camps do it different ways. Communications and citizenship merit badges must have been very memorable. Do you have any particular memorable moments from your time at camp?
Well, one within my merit badges is we, for citizenship in the world, the last day we have an international feast where we'd go to, or I'd go to an international market, get all these foods, and then I'd bring them back, and then we had like different foods from all over the place. But another unforgettable time was troop guiding, which is one of my favorite parts of summer camp. And as I mentioned, the very long process to be checked in, and all that fun stuff. It was this, I don't want to call it a dying troop, but it was only older scouts, and they all didn't seem too enthused to be there. It was like 13 to 15-year-olds who have never been to camp before. And by the time we made it back to their campsite after the process, They just didn't want to be there. And the magic happens throughout the week as I checked in with them. I see them running around and having fun, participating in camp-wide games and the fun campfires. And that's what the entire camp experience is about. It's about getting these youth outdoors and seeing them have a fun time.
Yes, definitely. That spark and joy that the camp experience has is very, very unique. Something I haven't found in life anywhere else. It could bring excitement and joy to any group of scouts, I believe. And kind of going back to you and your personal growth, as that's a very big part of venturing, I'm very curious specific skills or growth that you experience as your role as a summer camp staff member. Obviously, Semper Gumpy, being always flexible, was kind of part of your motto as you described it. Anything that's benefited you overall, maybe in school or anything like that?
Yeah, so throughout my seasons on camp staff, I've held a lot of different jobs, and each have had different niche impacts on me. A couple of my favorites were cultural village staff, reservation quartermaster, and the camp chief, which is like our OA position where we coordinate all of like the OA program. And between these couple, I've learned a lot about communication, collaboration, customer service, and how to put on a good program, which is a huge selling part on my end. Because if you give people a good program, they'll follow you. Like, that's all about camp. You give them a good time, then they take away the education with them. And
scouting's a game. Ooh. I was gonna say scouting's a game with a purpose, but you can confidently.
Yeah, I can confidently say that I would not be the same person if I did not staff Camp Friedlander.
I see. That's pretty awesome. I heard in your response, I'm assuming that the 2 weeks that you were there at camp was not the end of your camp experience.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, they were not my last 2 weeks. They were my first two before, like, I didn't do the math, but it's probably around probably 30 weeks throughout a couple of years.
You've spent a lot of time at camp. I just got goosebumps. And so you've had 30 plus years. No, not years, weeks of experience. And we talk a lot about how summer camp aligns with the values and principles, the goals of scouting and the venturing program. You're now a territory officer. How has summer camp aligned with those values?
Well, while staffing summer camp, you find it everywhere. Like leadership development, camp staff is made up of primarily scouts, and they're given opportunities to develop and apply their skills, and serving as role models for the campers. You can see it in character building. Staff are expected to follow Scout Oath law and promote the different values of scouting. And a huge part of being a camp counselor is being a role model and definitely like showing that these values do make a difference. And by us being that example, it makes others want to do it themselves. And then my last favorite part, which I really like to tie into venturing, and the reason that I tell people we use the uniforms for our summer camp is because we are the ones that we lead the adventure at camp. We are the ones that lead the adventure.
How rad. That's really cool. I have a quote from my current camp director. He likes to say at staff week and throughout the weeks as we go through, staff week is kind of, I don't know if you have a whole week, but for us, it's a week to get ready for camp before campers get there. And he likes to tell us that if every single one of us, if we're not the same person that we were sitting there in 5, 8, however many weeks we're going to be there, we haven't been doing our job right, and we haven't been building one another up in community. And I really like that lead the adventure motto. That gives me chills and is so very cool. And as you know, Nothing worth doing is ever easy. And I'm assuming you faced challenges. It's not all like, yay, and camp rocks all the time. Can you tell us what kind of challenges you've faced?
Yeah. So a way that staffing camp is unique is that you are on call 24/7. So when we should be sleeping is usually the time when most emergencies occur. So if anything happens at night, we're the first ones called to assist in it, be it medical issues, be it natural disasters, weather. And sleep is very hard when there's a lot of work to be done during program hours and after hours, combined with all of this extra on-the-call action that we have to be involved with. And it's a real challenge to keep up with self-care and other necessities, especially with us being understaffed. I know staffers who would have to skip meals and showers, but we definitely found a solution for that the next summer.
I see. Those personal care items are very, very important. And it's good that your camp has emergency action plans that involve people, and you guys know how to spring into action when actions needed. You guys were able to find some snacks when you had to miss meals, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Those to-go snacks. I always have granola bars in my pocket, and maybe a little bit of peanut butter, or if my staff members are allergic to peanut butter, then some kind of other snack for our staff, because we have to take care of one another. And that's something I've learned. I do remember one time where there was a thunderstorm at camp, and we had to all come to the designated storm location, and we took the morning off, as in we had a morning siesta, which was definitely something that sticks out in my head of the we need some more sleep. Let's all go to bed, and we'll start programs at 11 after lunch. That was a lot of fun. I'm sure you have some similar stories.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, we actually had a tornado one week at camp. And at this point, I was doing archery stuff. And it's probably one of my favorite memories. And it's the sirens went off, which was like our camp sirens, which is typically means there's a drill. But then we also started getting county sirens. So then at that point, it was all of us to the designated shower houses, because all of ours are built to the right standard to support that. And we had probably 40 people in that shower house. And I remember a couple of my other counselors, we were doing songs in that shower house. And it was the loudest I've ever heard Columbo being sang.
So much fun. I have the BSA's kind of summary of weather-related safety. Just as a reminder, number one would be like, know the weather forecast before you set out on your adventure. I'm glad you guys were able to know the forecast and get into those safe shelters and prepare for the types of weather hazards associated with your destination, obviously like the sirens, and then double check weather conditions immediately upon arrival to verify the forecast. I'm sure your camp director and program director do that a lot. And then if visibility becomes limited, quickly respond, gather all your scouts, and inquire about the location, any emergency shelters that are present, which it sounds like from your story, that's what you were able to achieve. And songs and things like that are fun, and one of the reasons I do camp. What advice would you give to someone considering staffing at summer camp? Maybe for the first summer here in 2024, there's still time for people to sign up if you're wondering, but maybe someone that's kind of hesitant.
It's a hard question, but the biggest piece of advice I would do is commit. If you commit to staffing, that is the hardest part, because the biggest issue that I find with a lot of campers who want to become staff is clearing out their summer to work at camp, because that's when school's out and everybody's having their fun. And I personally like to spend that at camp, but for others, they might have different priorities. When I decided to staff, I ended up missing a family vacation, which was kind of rough, but I think it was worth it in the long run. And I would advise them to go in as a counselor in training if they're not able to clear their summer, because usually in those positions you can have shorter terms. I think at our camp it was like a minimum of 2 weeks, and they don't have to be consecutive. And then another fun piece of advice is tennis shoes are your friend at camp. If you're in waterproof boots all summer, you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, look out for trench feet. Good thing to know. I think I'm going to put that on the packing list. Tennis shoes, because they can air out. That's a great idea. Did you have anything else?
I think that's about it.
Awesome. Can I add on to what you said?
Absolutely.
So in a conversation we had earlier, you were talking about how making friends with everyone, making friends while you're at summer camp will be some of the best friends that you had in your lifetime. And that's something I wrote down as something that made an impact on me as we were talking. Can you kind of describe how summer camp staff members work together as a team to create a positive and memorable experience for campers?
Yeah. So in the camp setting, the term customer service is used frequently, but most of the campers aren't our customers. It's usually their parents or troops. But while some scouts fundraise to go to camp, the concept of them paying for the camping experience is still detached. But I think what is meant by customer service is providing the best experience we can to the campers above all other priorities except safety. A lot of this happens behind the scenes. My favorite example was 20 minutes before opening campfire, and there was a scramble to make a new skit because we all had some spark of inspiration. In 10 minutes, we created a really great skit and got it added to the schedule. And it's that collaboration of camp staff with all of the creativity that definitely creates that idea of customer service.
That's really cool. At my camp, we tell them to give them the pickle, and you'll have to ask me later about that. But it's basically the premise of the story is if you walk into a deli and always get a pickle with your order, then you expect to have a pickle, and the time that you don't have a pickle, then the customer might get sad. So giving them the pickle, it's an unexpected kind of addition to their meal that makes the experience better. And that what you had said reminded me of that. How do you think staffing summer camp can influence one's connection with the scouting community? Obviously, you're kind of like stuck. Well, not stuck, but together in community with bunches and hundreds of staff members. How do you connect with scouting? Like, did you ever feel burnout, or tell me about your experience?
So I think that staffing summer camp is a great gateway into the broader scouting community in your council. Like, for example, through summer camp, I started getting involved with the OA. That's actually how I got elected into the OA, is because we were able to hold a staff election at the end of the season. And through the OA, I've actually kept a lot of those same relationships from camp staff. And it was just a really good segue into the scouting community. As I mentioned earlier, venturing, and then the introduction to Sea Scouts from another camp staff who is really into aquatics and maritime tradition.
That's really cool. There's a lot of overlap between programs that you have at summer camp. I remember walking around in my venturing uniform and being like the only person there the first year, and that being a walking billboard for any program kind of has sparked interest. Has that been the same for you?
I think to a degree.
Cool. Awesome. Well, it obviously worked for you. Can you share any advice or maybe insights on how to make the most of the summer camp experience? Because it's sometimes it feels long in the moment, but then it actually is like really, really quick, and maximize its impact on your personal growth and development from your experience.
Yeah. So the single most important tip that I can give, you kind of hinted at this earlier, is to make as many friends as possible. Camp staff attracts an audience of those who want to have fun and teach others. Definitely not for the monetary payment, because to be honest, almost any other job would pay more in cash. But it's those who get satisfaction out of changing lives that really like to be summer camp staff. And surrounding yourself with those types of people will have an impact on you.
Do you continue those interactions that you've made at summer camp and those friendships outside of summer?
Oh, absolutely. Some of my best friends came from summer camp staff.
That's awesome. I know I hang out with people I have summer camp staffed with at camp, at meetings, inside and outside of scouting. It's definitely a great time, and I would recommend it. And it sounds like from our experience that you're very passionate about it. What other closing thoughts do you have, kind of to wrap everything up? What should be the takeaway of this episode?
Definitely network with your friends. Definitely meet new people. And if you get the chance and have the opportunity to staff summer camp, I would jump in head first, commit for at least a couple weeks, see what the minimum time you can do is, and then use that as a segue to get involved. Summer camp staff is a great program.
I love it. And camp directors and program directors are cheering you on, Cody, as you say that, because I'm sure they're very, very excited. As our adventure here at Leading the Adventure comes to a close, I hope you've been inspired by Cody's remarkable journey and insights into the world of summer camp staffing. From his decisions to leading life-changing opportunities, it's very obvious that Cody has built up teamwork skills and camaraderie that will last him a lifetime. It showcases the power of leading the adventure. I really like that. Remember, when you're considering staffing at summer camp or embarking on a new endeavor, make sure to seize the opportunity. You don't know when it's going to come back around again. You'll make lasting connections, and always strive to make a positive impact. I want to thank you one more time, Cody, for sharing your insights. We hope this episode has been informative and inspiring for our listeners who are about to embark on this adventure. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Venturing BSA podcast, Leading Our Adventures. If you have any questions or would like to share your own venturing experiences, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. Remember to subscribe to Leading Our Adventures, and stay tuned for more exciting episodes. If you would like to be a venturer, don't be afraid to go to bscout.org and put in venturing, put in your zip code, and it will find venturing crews near you. Until next time, happy venturing. See you next time, y'all.